Hello. We are back at it for another study stream. I was pretty much all by myself last week, which was a little bit of a bummer, but that's why if you watch last week's video after the fact, or the stream after it was recorded, there's no audio after the video, the starting video, because nobody was here to tell me that my mic was still turned off. So I had a great study last week, as I kind of studied pretty much by myself for the hour, which, was okay. It was whatever. It was a little bit of a bummer going from having, 6 to 8 people to nobody. Currently is just me here. So we're going to give it a couple minutes. If you're watching after the fact, feel free to just skip ahead. Daxton! Hello! I was just chilling by myself, waiting to see if anybody was going to join me this week. How are you, bud? Can you hear me? Been better? Today a rough day at the factory? Or just a rough day in general? Ian says he says he's watching with Cash and Becky. Both. Did you move to a TV, Daxton? Is that why you texted me instead of commenting? It's fine either way. I don't really care. Let me see here. I want to see if I can change something. Ian, Cash, and Becky watching on the TV. Welcome, guys. Glad you could be here with us, with me. I think as we study today, feel free to text me your comments. Cash and Becky included if you want to grab my phone number from Ian, or if you want to use Ian's phone today to text me if you have any comments as we study. Either is totally fine. We'll get started here in just a little bit. We'll probably wait a little bit longer than normal. Normally we kind of roll the video, our starting video, like 6:37ish, about 7 after. We'll probably wait just a little bit longer. I want to see if we can get give as much time as possible for some people to join before we fully get started. But let me ask Ian, how is and Cash and Becky, how have your guys' day been? They are doing good. Is that you're doing good as a collective whole, or is that Ian is doing good? Reading the Book of Mormon together, almost done with 2nd Nephi. That's really cool. Good job. That is pretty awesome. Sorry, I was trying to see if I could get my stream delay to be a little bit shorter, but I think it is on the shortest. I think it's on no delay, so the only delay is between the network speeds, pretty much. Just trying to see if I can get it to be shorter. Finish chapter 31. Nice! About ready to move on to Jacob then. Always great. Alright. We have 4 people here. Well, 4 viewers on the stream. That doesn't include Becky and Cash because they're watching with Ian. But I'm glad all of you could be here today. If you are here, if you wouldn't mind just sending a quick message in the chat, I would love to just kind of know who's here, who's supporting, who's ready to study. We are going to jump into a HopeWorks talk or video. This one is a bit shorter today, which just means we'll have either some more time to study Come Follow Me, or some more time to Ian says he's got his laptop, so he's watching in, well, whatever. So we'll either have more time to study Come Follow Me, or we will have more time for just discussing the video afterwards. So I hope you guys enjoy the Come Follow Me video as always, and I will talk to you, and we will discuss afterwards.
For the past 21 years, I've been a gymnast. My mother began teaching me when I was barely old enough to walk. I quickly moved into the world of competition, and I loved it. For 17 of those 21 years, I competed in club gymnastics, and for the past 4 years, I've been a member of the University of Utah gymnastics team. While on the U of U's team, I was able to travel to many different places, meet new people, create some of my most favorite memories, and accomplish my lifelong dreams, both individually and as a team. It's important to mention the differences between club gymnastics and college gymnastics. They are, in many ways, as different as night and day. For example, in college gymnastics, It's a lot less forgiving than club. You might not have a great practice on the college level and could not be competing that following weekend, so the pressure is significantly greater. These differences require change, and these changes are not gradual. They come all at once. I was fortunate enough my last 3 years at the U to compete in all 4 events, but I could have been taken out or put back in at any moment, just depending on what the coaches thought was best for the team. So you must be ready not only physically, but mentally to deliver perfection. Fortunately, early on in these competitive years, I developed the habit of praying. I would pray to perform to the best of my ability, to avoid serious injury, and to remember and uphold the values I was taught at home. I want to say that I always had the support of my amazing husband and family, but I needed the power and the peace that came from connecting with God, and I relied heavily on that connection. I used it every day, from the moment I started warm-ups until I opened the door to leave. I found that the more I relied on that habit of connecting with God, I was able to truly see the benefit it had on every aspect of my life. Competing in college gymnastics is such a thrill, especially at the University of Utah's Huntsman Center that draws in 15,000 plus fans to every home meet. Competing in front of that many fans can be scary and can carry a lot of pressure. During these college competitions, many people would notice that I talked a lot to myself. And commentators would always say that they could see me giving myself mental cues. But I was actually praying. It became so much a part of my routine that my prayers became my spiritual cues that I would mix in with my normal mental cues along with those that my coaches had given me. Having this connection grounded me. It made me realize that what I was learning was bigger than just gymnastics. The day would come when I would need this perspective. In May of this year, my team qualified to the NCAA National Championships. To reach the national championships, we had to first compete in a regional competition at LSU and be in the top 2 of every team competing at that regionals. The second day of competition, I had one of the best meets of my life. I just felt on, so going into nationals, I was feeling very confident. When the first meet day came, I was ready. Being a senior, I was determined not to have this be my last day of gymnastics ever. If we were not in the top 2 of every team of that session, we would not be moving on. So I was going to do everything in my power to make sure we made it to the next day of competition. We started on floor, and I had a great routine. I did one of the best vaults of my life. My bar routine was about as good as I could do it. Then we went to beam, our last event for the day. We knew we had to have one of the best rotations we had had all season. At that moment, the longest I had ever been away from gymnastics was 5 days in a row. So I was internally freaking out a little bit. I did not want this to be my last gymnastics routine. And that thought dominated my thinking. I don't quite remember what happened, but I fell. I fell in front of thousands of people. I fell competing for the national championship. I fell on a skill I've been performing since I was in 7th grade. And yet, here I was. That fall would become the end of my last ever gymnastics routine. I would never compete again. To say I was devastated does not even come close. I had trained for 21 years for my ending to be a failure. After my routine, I saluted, gave my teammates high fives, and went behind a curtain and began to sob. One of my teammates came with me to try and comfort me. I remember just sitting there feeling so devastated. I could not get it through my head that this is how my gymnastics career was ending. I started to pray because of the habit I had developed over the years. And I had a sudden moment of clarity right there that night in that arena. It was like I had a glimpse into the future. I could see myself helping a young gymnast through a similar situation and helping my future daughter in her own life through the lessons I had learned. And that great lesson is that it's not our low moments that define us, but how we improve from all the moments we experience, both high and low. I could have remained devastated and ended my gymnastics career on a bitter note, but I was helped through the habit of prayer to decide to learn from it and to make it a positive. I choose to focus on not what happened, but on what can happen. So what is my message? As a 9-time All-American with 2 perfect 10s, voted the University of Utah's Female Athlete of the Year and the 2018 Pac-12 Vault Champion, it is that all those honors and all those accomplishments have not taught me as much as falling and turning to God has. Thank you.
All right. So video was much shorter simply because, so there's like 36 HopeWorks talks or 32 or whatever. The newer ones are much shorter. The old ones are longer. So we're getting kind of into the new ones, which are only just like 7-8 minutes. If you are here, what's, for the video, what stood out to you about what she said? What kind of touches your heart today? For me, the one thing that I wrote down here on my little notepad is is our earthly failures do not define our divine journey. I think oftentimes I think that we struggle with this idea of we get very much in our heads, I think, a lot of times, specifically over the things that we take pride in or take or kind of have kind of, I guess pride would be would probably be the best term. In the things that we do in our life, we think that we're good at something, or we're one or the other, or we're known for, if you would have asked me, kind of who I was as a kid in high school, I'd tell you I did martial arts, and I was in the drum line towards the end. I was a band kid, and I was a martial arts kid, right? Those were a large part of my life back then, and that's what I would tell you I did. And so because I kind of made those such a big part of my life and my identity, right, when I failed at one or the other, I was devastated every time. I can remember being in high school and trying out for the jazz band my senior year, and I was one of 2 baritone saxophone players that were trying out, and there was one spot. I was a senior. The other guy trying out was a freshman. And I remember that I didn't make the cut. I didn't get the spot. And my band teacher came up to me afterwards, and he was like, it was real close, trying to, I guess, console me. But I was devastated because I had looked at myself and I said I was a saxophone player. I'm a bari sax player. I was the only one actually at the high school. I just thought that was who I was. And so because I failed at that, then who was I? One of the things that she talks about is the fact that, her failures have taught her more than her successes or her accolades or her accomplishments or her titles or whatever. Which is why I think it's so important to understand that our earthly failures do not define our divine journey. Our life is a journey on this earth to become like our Father, to learn and to grow, to understand good from evil, and to fulfill that for which we were created, which is to become perfect like our Father and to return home. So, let's see here. Where'd my mouse go? There it is. Daxton texted. It's like my martial arts black belt test. I would comment that if you want to share that from me, you can. Daxton, if you wanna write what, like, I don't know exactly what you would want me to share about that, or what you would feel comfortable sharing. But if you want to text it to me, I'll read it and we can talk about it more, about your experience, with testing for a black belt. Anybody have any other thoughts? Also, we have 5 people here, so if you're here and you haven't already commented, if you'll do me a favor and throw a comment in the chat, so I know you're here, that would be great. That's fine, Daxton. Don't worry about it. We'll wait for you. You can type it up. He said it'll take him a little bit to type, which is fine. Here we are. Oh, actually, so if anybody has a comment about the video, definitely keep typing. However, my brother Ian is getting set apart as a missionary next week. So with that being said, there will be no stream next week. So make sure you mark on your calendars. May 16th, no stream. No stream that week. I'm too busy with a couple other things I've been doing for some church callings I just received. So I won't have time to do it a different day of the week, unfortunately. So no stream next week. We'll be back on the week of for the 23rd. It will be the next one after this week. So just keep that in mind. The other thing I wanted to say was that, this is just my curiosity. Ian told me that Becky got her mission call. Was curious if you've actually opened it yet. And if you did, where are you serving? If you don't want to tell me, you don't have to, but I'm curious. Washington, D.C. North. Spanish speaking. That's super exciting. Wait, hold on. Washington, D.C. North. Mission. I wonder if I can pull up a map of your mission. Also, I totally didn't even realize that there were 2 missions in that mission. Didn't realize there was a north and a south mission because it's not a very big area, to be honest. Let's see. See if I can find a good map. Hold on. Becky, are you excited? Are you happy about your call? Indifferent? What do you think about speaking Spanish? Wow, I really cannot find like a good picture that I can put up on stream to show everybody. That's unfortunate. Maybe this one? You're a little scared, but excited. You did some Spanish in high school, so you're feeling pretty excited about that too. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't know to what level you got to in Spanish in high school. I took Spanish in high school. Got to the point of I took Spanish 2. I didn't get past Spanish 2 in high school. But I did take 2 years of Spanish. Took Spanish 1, Spanish 2, my sophomore, junior years. I will say it is very helpful to have to already have that base understanding of how to have a base understanding of like how the conjugations work and things like that. Excuse me. At least for like present tense verbs and even past tense is slightly helpful. I found that everything I learned in high school was taught in about 2 days at the MTC. A lot of your Spanish study, and as well as, so here's the other thing, a lot of your Spanish study will be taught in the way of, like this is how you teach the gospel. It's very different from school. So essentially, they'll give you these books, and these books literally just like give you a flow chart of like, here's how we're going to learn how to conjugate present tense verbs. And they give you this flow chart, and you get like 4 verbs on the flow chart, and then you get like sample sentences. So it's like use the flow chart to create sentences like yo sé que Jesucristo vive, right? Super gringo accent, because that's what you'll sound like, and that's fine. Or very simple, basic sentences that you can use to testify about the gospel. Which is really cool how they teach the language in the MTC. Here's my biggest recommendation to you with learning Spanish in a stateside mission. Having been through the whole process, my biggest recommendation to you is to not translate in your head. It sounds weird. Every missionary does this. When they try to learn a new language, they go out, and especially for stateside missions, because they're constantly enveloped in it, they have to speak English everywhere except for when they're speaking Spanish to teach lessons, pretty much. And so when you're first trying to learn how to speak and how to be and how to actually understand the language, a lot of missionaries will try to just translate word for word everything that somebody says in their head, so to try to understand. If you do that, you'll fall behind, and then you'll lose. Like you'll do fine for like the first half of the conversation, and then you'll just be lost. So what I learned is that when you're learning a new language, you have to learn to ignore the small words and just pay attention to the big ones, right? The important context ones. Because even in English, we don't necessarily focus too much on all of the little articles, the thes, the us, the ofs, the whatever, right? The its, because they don't really matter. And a lot of the language in between doesn't matter. It just makes it sound nice. Spanish has the same thing. So don't worry too much about translating word for word, and just learn to, as you listen, just learn to pick out the pieces to add context to the conversation, and I think you'll learn to understand it much faster than I did. It took me 9 months to get to a point where I felt like I was semi-decent at holding a conversation in Spanish without the help of my companion, because I couldn't understand it first. Also, there are 2 types of missionaries that learn the new language. There are the missionaries that can understand right off the bat, and they have no problem understanding the language because they're blessed with ears that can hear and understand. Or there's missionaries that can speak, generally at the very beginning, where they find that speaking is really easy. Generally, there's those two types. I was number 2. I could speak. I had no issue conveying my own thoughts in Spanish. However, it was really hard for me to understand. It's okay to be either. The language will come. I promise. Okay? If you have questions about how Spanish works, if you have questions about how learning the language works with being on a mission, let me know. I'd be happy to chat with you. We have 6 people here now. So there are some people that are here that I have no idea who you are. So if you're here and you can send me a quick message over YouTube chat on the stream, or even just a quick text, that would be great. And absolutely, Becky, anytime if you have questions, let me know. I offered the same thing to Ethan when he got called Spanish speaking, but he kind of just was like, yeah, whatever. So, but I'm happy to help you where I can. It was very hard for me to learn Spanish on my mission. It was very hard, just because of being in a stateside mission, and then I spent my first 6 months in a primary English area, so it was not easy. But it felt very good once I finally could say that I knew how to speak the language well enough to communicate. So it comes. Trust that the gift of tongues is real, because it is. I promise. And if we have some extra time after we study today, maybe towards the end of stream, if anyone wants to stay, I'll share it with you, kind of the defining moment for me when I really understood the gift of tongues. Daxton sent me kind of his little message about the video. Wanted me to just read it real quick before I share it with everybody, which is fine. So give me just a second. Yeah, so let me give a little bit of context, just so that you guys can kind of understand, with the martial arts system that we grew up in, going to, all of my brothers, myself, my older brother Kyle, Daxton, and Ian all went through the same martial arts studio and system. Kyle and I both were kind of the first ones to do it. With Daxton and Ian kind of following a bit later when they were a couple of years older after Kyle and I started. The system or essentially the way to get a black belt was a very long process. It generally took most people from a white belt to a black belt roughly 5 to 6 years. It was a long process. Not only that, but the actual black belt testing process, once you were ready to test for black belt, was a year-long process in of itself. So we would start, when I went through testing, we started in September. They eventually moved that to July, I think. But you'd start in September, and every month or every month you'd have like a class, and every couple months you'd have a pre-test where you have to test on certain material from the different ranks. So we tested on everything. And then at the end of that year, there was a week-long test where you'd go for a couple hours almost every night of the week, and then pretty much all day Saturday. And we would test on everything that was ever taught to us in the entire system, from white belt to black belt. It's a very intensive, long, and hard process, and is very mentally and physically taxing. Me and Kyle did it 3 different times. We tested for 3 different black belts under that same process. Daxton was determined to do the same. Daxton was told by a number of our instructors, and this was a lot of it was kind of around the time that I was gearing up to leave on my mission, as well as while I was gone. So I don't know a lot of the story, which is what Daxton shared with me. Essentially, Daxton was told by a number of his instructors that he would never be a black belt, that he didn't have the discipline or the motor function to really to be a black belt. Daxton, if you know Daxton, he doesn't take no for an answer from anybody. He doesn't want to feel limited in what he can do. So he said, I'm going to do it anyway. Daxton went through the process, and again, it's a year-long process every time. So it's a lot. It's a big deal. Daxton went through the process 3 or 4 times, and he failed 3 times before he finally was able to pass his black belt test the year I came home. I think, and Daxton can maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the sentiment is that it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter how many times you fail. But I think that it's important to. I think that kind of the lesson here is that it doesn't matter that you fail. It matters that you're trying. It matters that you're following the journey, that you're walking the path, that you're learning as you go along. And that's kind of what I think can be gathered from that. It's about the perseverance, right? It kind of comes back to that idea that the failures of this life are not a direct reflection on where our journey is going, right? Where our divine journey is going. Just because we may fail in a earthly endeavor does not mean that we are failing to become more like our Father. So, anyway, I think I hope I did that story justice, Daxton. If you want to add any other thoughts here, feel free. So, but let's switch over and let's do some gospel study. Do some Come Follow Me study. Let's see. Here we go. Hold on. Sorry. Woohoo. Okay. All right. So, today we are studying in Mosiah 7 through 10. So, last week there was really nobody here, and I apologize in advance. You can technically go watch the video back. Jacob was here for a little bit. We watched the Hope Works talk for a little bit. And then I think he had some network problems, wasn't able to stay or something, and so I ended up just studying by myself for pretty much the whole time. And nobody was here, so nobody told me that my mic was unmuted, or still muted. So you can go back and watch the Hope Works talk, but after that, it's just a lot of just me pointing, a lot of my mouth moving, but no audio. So sorry about that. But it was great study. Last time we studied, it was over Mosiah 4, which is King Benjamin's, kind of his initial preaching to his subjects, particularly warning them to be very careful in their thoughts and in their deeds, and making sure that they are following Christ, and making sure that they're not just being idle, right? Talks a lot about the kind of, the baptismal covenant and that kind of, as well as kind of almost like kind of like a first general conference for King Benjamin. So that was last week. So this week we're gonna get into more, kind of more into, as you kind of see here, more into King Mosiah's people, more after King Benjamin. Okay. So Mosiah 7 through 10. While King Mosiah's people were enjoying continual peace in Zarahemla, their thoughts turned to another group of Nephites, who many years before had left to dwell in the land of Lehi Nephi. Generations had passed, and Mosiah's people had heard nothing from them. So Mosiah asked Ammon to lead a search party to find the Nephites who had left. The search party found that these Nephites, because of iniquity, were in captivity to the Lamanites. But with the arrival of Ammon and his brethren, suddenly there was hope for deliverance. Sometimes we're like these captive Nephites, suffering because of our sins, wondering how we'll ever find peace again. Sometimes we're like Ammon, feeling prompted to reach out to others, and eventually finding that our efforts have inspired them to lift up their heads and rejoice and put their trust in God, no matter our circumstances. We all need to repent and turn to the Lord with full purpose of heart, with faith that He will deliver us. All right, let's get into it. So, Jesus Christ has the power to deliver me. Meeting Ammon gave King Limhi hope, and he wanted to pass that hope on to his people. Maybe his words can give you hope, too. For context, consider reviewing the situation of Limhi's people in Mosiah 7:20-25. Then ponder these questions as you read Mosiah 14-33. Okay, so kind of like reading after than before. So, if you guys are not familiar with the story of Ammon and King Limhi, let me give you a little preface before we start reading. To just remind you, Ammon was the guy that went and chopped off all the arms. I have affectionately always called him Ammon the Arm Chopper, which is really funny because pretty much I knew a little kid when I was teaching martial arts, and we would call him Ammon the Arm Chopper, and he was a little like 4-year-old kid that was coming. He would do martial arts. He was the cutest little thing. We call him Ammon the Arm Chopper, and he loved it. So anyway, let's jump in. And again, if you are just joining us, if you'll throw a message in the chat, I'd love to know who's here. Kind of just a standard practice when you join, please. So let's read first. We'll read 20-25. Well, 14-33 kind of encompasses 20-25. We'll read 14-33 because it'll just encompass all of 20-25. So, and we're gonna fall on the 3 questions that it wants us to look out for. So, number 1, what did Limhi say to strengthen his people's faith and hope in Christ? So Limhi, not Ammon. What phrases help you feel hope? Okay. And what experiences have helped you to trust that God can and will deliver you? So, let's read. Feel free to make some comments as I read, and we will get to them. Just so that way, if you don't, if it takes a while to type, or if you don't want to forget, you can always type them, throw them in the chat. Okay? Here we go. And now it came to pass that after Limhi had heard the words of Ammon, he was exceedingly glad, and said, Now I know of a surety that my brethren who are in the land of Zarahemla are yet alive. And now I will rejoice, and on the morrow I will cause that my people shall rejoice also. For behold, we are in bondage to the Lamanites, and are taxed with a tax which is grievous to be borne. And now behold, our brethren will deliver us out of our bondage, or out of the hands of the Lamanites. And we will be their slaves, for it is better that we be the slaves to the Nephites than to pay tribute to the king of the Lamanites. And now King Limhi commanded his guards that they should no more bind Ammon, nor his brethren, but cause that they should go to the hill which was north of Shalom, and bring their brethren into the city, that thereby they might eat and drink and rest themselves from the labors of their journey. For they had suffered many things. They had suffered hunger, thirst, and fatigue. And now it came to pass, on the morrow, that King Limhi sent a proclamation among all his people, that thereby they might gather themselves together to the temple, to hear the words which he should speak unto them. And it came to pass, that when they had gathered themselves together, that he spake unto them in this wise, saying, O ye, my people, lift up your heads, and be comforted. For behold, the time is at hand, or is it not far distant, when we shall no longer be in subjection to our enemies? Notwithstanding our many strugglings, which have been in vain, Yet I trust there remaineth an effectual struggle to be made. Therefore lift up your heads and rejoice, and put your trust in God, in that God who was the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and also that God who brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, and caused that they should walk through the Red Sea on dry ground, and fed them with manna, that they might not perish in the wilderness. And many more things did he do for them. And again, the same God has brought our fathers out of the land of Jerusalem, and has kept and preserved his people even until now. And behold, it is because of our iniquities and abominations that he has brought us into bondage. And ye all are witnesses this day, that Zeniff, who was made king over this people, he being overzealous to inherit the land of his fathers, therefore being deceived by the cunning and craftiness of King Laman, who having entered into a treaty with King Zeniff, and having yielded up into his hands the possessions of a part of the land, or even the city of Lehi Nephi, and the city of Shalom, and the land round about. And all this he did for the sole purpose of bringing this people into subjection, or into bondage. And behold, we at this time do pay tribute to the king of the Lamanites, to the amount of 1/2 of our corn, and our barley, and even all our grain of every kind, and 1/2 of the increase of our flocks and our herds, and even 1/2 of all we have or possess, the king of the Lamanites doth exact of us, or our lives. And now, is not this grievous to be borne? And is not this our affliction great? Now behold, how great reason we have to mourn. Yea, I say unto you, great are the reasons which we have to mourn. For behold, how many of our brethren have been slain, and their blood has been spilt in vain, and all because of iniquity. For if this people had not fallen into transgression, the Lord would not have suffered that this great evil should come upon them. But behold, they would not hearken unto his words, but there arose contentions among them, even so much that they did shed blood among themselves. And a prophet of the Lord have they slain, yea, a chosen man of God, who told them of their wickedness and abominations, and prophesied of many things which are to come, yea, even the coming of Christ. And because he had said unto them that Christ was the God, the Father of all things, and said that he should take upon him the image of man, and it should be the image after which man was created in the beginning. Or in other words, he said that man was created after the image of God, and that God should come down among the children of men, and take upon him flesh and blood, and go forth upon the face of the earth. And now, because he said this, they did put him to death, and many more things did they do which brought down the wrath of God upon them. Therefore, who wondereth that they are in bondage, and that they are smitten with sore afflictions? For behold, the Lord hath said, I will not succor my people in the day of their transgression, but I will hedge up their ways, that they prosper not, and their doing shall be as a stumbling block before them. And again he saith, If my people shall sow filthiness, they shall reap the chaff thereof in the whirlwind, and the effect thereof is poison. And again he saith, If my people shall sow filthiness, they shall reap the east wind, which bringeth immediate destruction. And now, behold, the promise of the Lord is fulfilled, and ye are smitten and afflicted. But if ye will turn to the Lord with full purpose of heart, and put your trust in him, and serve him with all diligence of mind, if ye do this, he will, according to his own will and pleasure, deliver you out of bondage. Okay, there's a lot of scripture there. I know that I just read a lot of scripture. Okay, 16, 17, 18, 19 verses. 19 verses. I think. Sounds about right. Right, so a lot of stuff. That being said, so let's answer the 3 questions. Number 1, what did Limhi say to strengthen his people's faith and hope in Christ? I think this is kind of what, like, verse 18 for me. I would say this is the biggest thing that Limhi says to them. Also, that feedback thing is just like in the way. Okay, so this to me is what Limhi says that is probably would give me the most comfort. Right, here's the leader of the people, and here in verse 18 he pretty much says to them, hey, look, we're almost there. Lift up your head, like, have some comfort from the Spirit. We're almost there. We're almost there. We can do this, right? It's been hard. It's been rough. Sometimes it's been really sucky, right? But we have to remain we have to keep our trust in God. We got to hold our heads up high. We got to keep going because we're almost done. We're almost there, right? It's very much an almost there speech, I think. Is there anything there? Anything else anyone else sees? Maybe that would be the thing that would give you the most hope that Limhi is saying. Kind of goes along with kind of what question number 2 is. What phrases in this scripture give you hope or help you to feel hope? Let me write a quick note while people have a chance to respond to that question. Any thoughts? Wow, y'all are quiet. Look, I got no problem with y'all being quiet. I'll keep talking. But I do want to make sure people have a chance to share their own thoughts. Honestly, like, so kind of going with twofold here on both questions. So 19 and 20, Limhi takes the opportunity to recount to them this story of Moses, right? Moses takes the Israelites out of Egypt, who are in bondage, who are in slavery, right? So he's taking one story and going, look, Like, remember this? Remember Moses? Remember the people of Israel that were stuck in Egypt? Like, they were stuck in the same situation we are stuck in. They were slaves in Egypt. We are slaves to the Lamanites. Okay? So they're looking at it and they say, look, same situation. That's what he's saying. Right? And he's saying, look, God took the faithful people, had a leader lead them out. Just said, take them, go. He said, if God can take them and overcome the very Red Sea, right? The Red Sea was not small by any means, by the way. Red Sea is massive. It's pretty big. And who knows what it was like in Moses' time, which was, probably, quite a few years before Christ coming, right? So, long time ago, a couple thousand years ago. Right, so it could have been much bigger then, could have been smaller, we don't know. But, just saying, one of the things I think is very interesting is Limhi saying, here's the people of Israel, here's us, we're the same. If God can do it once, if he can perform his miracles once, why would he not do so again? Why would he not save us again if we remain faithful? And I think that is so important. It's something that gives me hope of I can look at it and say, look, there are other situations where someone has been dealing with the same things I deal with, or the same struggles, or the same issues, or whatever, right? The same doubts. And God has done miracles for them. So why would he not do miracles for me? Right? It's very easy to look, it's very easy to identify, like, oh, like someone else, you had miracles, like you had like a good situation, like God blessed your life, and so he helped you out. Right, but then it's sometimes really hard to look at our lives and go, but God doesn't care about me because he's not doing any of those things. And the answer is that perspective is wrong. He is. You just have to change, and you just have to keep going, right? So King Limhi is trying to help these people stay hopeful. He's trying to help them continue in faith. Dad says, one of the reasons that Mormon is including Limhi's sermon is to help us remember that we gain true freedom through Christ. I like that, actually. That's very true, right? So, very, very symbolic, right? Limhi and his people are very much physically stuck in bondage, right? And they find that freedom through Christ, who kind of liberates them through Ammon and his brother, and they go to find them, right? Which is very cool. I think you could also say that, like, now that I'm thinking about it more, that this is also a great story about ministry, in my opinion, because, right, these people disappear, and they're like, well, we don't know where they went, so Ammon's like, well, I'll go find them, and he does. He goes and he finds the people, and they're in bondage, right? So, very, very interesting to draw the parallel that this could also be in a story of Ammon, who is being a good minister, who is going out to seek for the people that they have lost, to make sure that they're okay. He doesn't necessarily know that they've lost their faith, and in this case, they haven't really lost their faith. They just got physically lost, right? But he went after them to make sure that they were okay. And we can do the same in our life. A lot of the time it doesn't require a lot of physical searching, but sometimes it does require a lot of searching more to try to contact people, or find a way to contact them, or find a way to help them with whatever they're going through. Okay, any thoughts on question 3? What experience have helped you, right? So a very personal question. What experiences have helped you to trust God? What experiences have helped you trust that God can and will deliver you from your trials? Would anybody be willing to share any of their own personal experiences of things that have helped them to kind of come to an understanding and trust that God will deliver them from your trials, and that He can and He will? nose is super itchy today. Got some allergies or something going on. So I would still like to see if someone would be willing to share an experience for themselves. But let me share with you kind of what's on my mind about this third question. I oftentimes go back to time, honestly, a time I don't remember. Y'all probably don't know, but a lot of you, my family knows, right? That when I was born, I was not a healthy child. I was not a healthy baby. Had a lot of health complications when I was born, so much so that I had a lot of surgeries. I don't remember the number my parents gave me at one point, but I know that it was way too many. Pretty much was told that I was in and out of the hospital almost every couple weeks, right? So, I remember some conversations I distinctly had with my mom, as she kind of talked about this time, living through it, trying to help me, trying to figure out, her and my dad trying to figure out how to help me. And one of the things my mom said was that all of the doctors continually always said that they weren't sure if I'd survive. They weren't sure if I'd make it past just a couple years, if not less, right? Just because of all the complications I was having. And I remember that my mom often talked about the fact that the doctors would say that even if I did survive, that I wouldn't really amount to having any motor control or any mental capacity, really. That I was gonna be just a kid that that my parents would have to take care of the rest of their lives. And I think about that a lot, specifically in this context, because it is one of the most powerful things and very personal things, even though I don't remember it because I was a baby, obviously. It's one of the most powerful experiences that I have, or knowledge that I have, that God has delivered me from things that should have taken my life, or should have put me in a spot where I was not going to function, or not be able to live life the way that I've lived it, where I have continued to defy the odds of survival, essentially, because of the faith of my parents at the time, who eagerly pleaded with Father in heaven to help me, to save me, and to heal me. And I'm very grateful for my parents, and I'm very grateful for my mom, who has talked about that time. I don't remember a lot of it, a lot of our discussions, but I do remember just how important it was. And it's a big indicator to me in my life that God can and He will deliver me from the things that are going on. Ian said, during a tough time in my life, I found the scripture D&C 6:23. He quotes, "Did I not already speak peace to your mind concerning this matter? What greater witness can you have than from God?" Yeah, so that comes from D&C 6 is the revelation to Oliver Cowdery. Specifically when Oliver Cowdery prayed about whether or not the Book of Mormon was true, and if he should go help Joseph Smith to translate the Book of Mormon. It's because of that scripture. This is after. So he gets the peace that he's talking about in D&C 6 before he goes to see Joseph. After he goes to see Joseph, he asks the question of why can't I see the plates? And starts to have some doubts about the translation of the Book of Mormon and whatnot, and pleads with Joseph for this revelation from God, and D&C 6 is what he gets, right? Oliver Cowdery says that he did not tell anybody about his experience when he prayed, where that peace was given to him, where he was given that witness from God that the Book of Mormon is true and that Joseph Smith was a prophet. He didn't tell anybody about it, and yet Joseph Smith gives him D&C 6. Essentially, he dictates it to Oliver Cowdery as a revelation, and Oliver Cowdery accounts in some of his journals that there's no way Joseph could have known that. So it was definitely divine revelation. But I think that it's really important to understand Oliver Cowdery's experience, right? Oliver Cowdery still had doubts, even though he had this great peaceful experience where he had his testimony confirmed by the Spirit, and even though he was actively in the presence of Joseph as a prophet, translating the Book of Mormon on a daily basis, right? Even he still had doubts about the truthfulness of their work that they were doing. So it's oftentimes that sometimes we need to reflect on those moments a lot more, I think. Any other comments before we kind of keep moving? I'll give it a minute or two if anybody wants to comment. Any other thoughts? Okay. Let's move on. So, next section is Mosiah 7, 26 through 27. So we already read those verses in the bulk of what we were reading. Oh, Becky had a comment. Becky says, this last fall, I'm assuming, I had a lot of hard things happening at once. I had my first surgery, and I was really scared. My body was at one of the most frail states that it has ever been in, but I saw God's hand in the people that He sent to me during the hardest time. I know that He truly does send angels to help us. I like that. I like this. I like that you point out there that it's not always necessarily like divine angels, right? It's not necessarily these divine beings that are visiting us, but a lot of times it's people that are our angels that help us, that heal us in some way or the other. I really do like that. Thank you. Awesome. So, we'll move on to the next section here. So, in Mosiah 7, 26 and 27, Limhi explained some of the truths taught by Abinadi. What truths can you identify in these verses? How do these truths affect the way you see God and yourself? So let's read 26 and 27 real quick again. Let's answer the question of how do these truths affect the way that you see God and yourself? Okay. Hold on. There we go. All right, 26. And a prophet of the Lord have they slain, yea, a chosen man of God, who told them of their wickedness and abominations, and prophesied of many things which are to come, yea, even the coming of Christ. And because he said unto them that Christ was the God, the Father of all things, and said that he should take upon him the image of man, and it should be the image after which man was created in the beginning. Or in other words, he said that man was created after the image of God, and that God should come down among the children of men, and take upon him flesh and blood, and go forth upon the face of the earth. So what do you think? In these two verses, what stands out to you that helps you to understand and help you understand who God is, as well as who you are? Give me just a second to write down a couple of my own thoughts here. Any thoughts? My personal thought here is more directly related to the end of verse 27. I'm not quite sure why my mind gravitates towards the ending phrase of verse 27 of and go for and the fact that that Christ, being created in the image of God, us being created in the image of God, did go forth upon the face of the earth. Right? Christ took upon himself a body of flesh and blood and went forth upon the face of the earth. What kind of stands out to me about that phrase and kind of my thought process here, and y'all can maybe, I hope that y'all can kind of see where I'm coming from, but I think the biggest thing is for me here with that phrase is that what I hear is that Christ, who is the God of the Old Testament, who was perfect, God's right hand man, right, son of, right, he was the first, he was an archangel in heaven in the pre-earth life. I believe if I'm getting that correct. And yet, he descended from heaven to put on an imperfect body, to walk upon an imperfect world, to brave the worst punishment that humanity could offer at the time, and probably ever since. To be scorned and mocked, beaten. He walked among this imperfect world. He suffered the greatest pain that anybody on this earth has ever suffered. Because he loves us. And I think more importantly, he walked this earth, he did go forth upon this earth in my mind, to show us that we are not alone. For me, it's a showing. Not only did he come to perform the atonement, to save us from the demands of justice for our sins. Not only did he come to provide that way for us and to provide his gospel, to provide the path, but he did it in such a way that shows us that we are not alone, that we did not walk this earth alone. That the very presence of heavenly beings has dwelled on this earth in flesh. And I think that, to me, is what stands out here. Particularly about the way that I see God, the way that I see my Savior, is that this, to me, shows that he wanted us to know, at the end of the day, we're not alone. We're not doing this alone. We were never doing this alone. He didn't ask us to do something and then say, but I just want you to figure it out. Figure out how to be mortal. Figure out how to come back. No. He gave us an exact instruction. He showed us. He gave us an example. And he gave us records of his example. And I think that's incredible. I think it shows his love for us. Anybody have any other thoughts before we move on to Mosiah 8? If not, we'll kind of get like Mosiah 8 in for like 10 minutes and then that'll be our study. But I'll give it just a minute if anyone has any other comments. If you're typing, feel free to keep typing. We will come back, but we're also going to kind of keep moving because we only got about 12 minutes of study left. So if you're typing, keep typing. We will stop. We will come back. Don't worry. But we'll move on kind of just briefly here to Mosiah 8. So verse 13 through 19. The Lord provides prophets, seers, and revelators to benefit mankind. When Limhi heard Ammon's testimony that the Lord had raised up a seer, Limhi, quote, rejoiced exceedingly and gave thanks to God. Why do you think he felt that way? What do you learn about seers from Ammon's words in Mosiah 8, 13 through 19? Let's take a quick read of the scriptures. So, verse 13. Now Ammon said unto him, I can assuredly tell thee, O king, of a man that can translate the records, for he has wherewith that he can look and translate all records that are of ancient date. And it is a gift from God, and the things are called interpreters, and no man can look in them except he be commanded, lest he should look, for that he ought not, and he should perish. And whosoever is commanded to look in them, the same is called seer. And behold, the king of the people who are in the land of Zarahemla is the man that is commanded to do these things, and who has this high gift from God. And the king said that a seer is greater than a prophet. And Ammon said that a seer is a revelator, and a prophet also. And a gift which is greater can no man have, except he shall possess the power of God, which no man can, yet man may have great power given him from God. But a seer can know of things which are past, and also of things which are to come. And by them shall all things be revealed, or rather, shall secret things be made manifest, and hidden things shall come to light, and things which are not known shall be made known by them, and also things shall be made known by them which otherwise could not be known. Thus God has provided a means that man, through faith, might work mighty miracles. Therefore he becometh a great benefit to his fellow beings. And now when Ammon had made an end of speaking these words, the king rejoiced exceedingly, and gave thanks to God, saying, Doubtless a great mystery is contained within these plates, and these interpreters were doubtless prepared for the purpose of unfolding all such mysteries to the children of men. So, let me ask you this question. This will be kind of our last question for today. So take some time to think about it, and please feel free, please make some comments. So, with this, right, so Limhi is talking about this idea of seers and prophets, and just how important they are. And Limhi is rejoicing in the fact that they have somebody that is providing for them knowledge, is providing for them revelation, is providing for them counsel from our Father in heaven, right? As the Come Follow Me kind of states here, today we sustain the first presidency and the quorum of the 12 apostles as prophets, seers, and revelators. How have they been a great benefit to you? What have they taught you about Jesus Christ? So I'm going to ask you this question. Kind of similar here, but why, personally, why to you do the prophets and apostles matter? Right? Why do you think, why would you feel the need, right? Because here's the thing, right? We take, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 hours every 6 months. It's a lot of time. 10 hours is a long time. 10 hours over the span of 48. So that's a quarter of your time, right? Considering that you're sleeping for 16 of it, or you should be if you're sleeping 8 hours. We take 10 of the 24 hours to sit and listen to prophets, seers, and revelators every 6 months. Why would it then be so important to you to take that time? Why would you sacrifice your entire weekend when you could be hanging out with friends, you could be working on, a job, or you could be, whatever. But instead you sanctify your time to listening to prophets, seers, and revelators. Why is that important? Why does that matter to you? Any thoughts? So here's my thought, and if this is where we end, this is where we end. Oh wait, hold on. Daxton's like, Becky is typing. Okay, thanks. That's okay. Becky says, General Conference is one of the best times that I can feel the Lord's love for me. That's awesome. I love that. Why else is it important to you guys? I think for me, to be honest, like General Conference, probably up until my mission was just something I did because my family did it. And a lot of the time, I think to some degree, I still find it difficult to fully understand the importance of General Conference in terms of actually sitting down and watching it live, like as it happens. And I say that because I feel like oftentimes I get more out of General Conference after the fact. Almost as if it would be just as beneficial if they would just release all of their talks in their magazine, in the Ensign, right? Once every 6 months, and not even hold a live conference. Like, I guess that's where I get the most out of it, is the after study. However, I've come to understand, and I've come to really enjoy the time that I get to spend with my family as we watch General Conference. The General Conference has not only become a time where we listen to the words of the prophets, seers and revelators, to learn from the mouth of God, right? Who are speaking as mouthpieces for God. But I think also that it provides an opportunity for us to gather together as believers in Christ for that time, and to feel strengthened by the gathering of saints across the world. It's something that we stand united in. Millions of people stand united in watching General Conference every year. To really come to this understanding, to really feel of God's love. It's kind of the sentiment that like King Benjamin had, or like King Benjamin's people, right? They come to this big tower, and they make sure that they are all facing the tower. All their tent doors face the tower, because they want to make sure that they're ready to hear him. Daxton says, "It is important to me because I learn how to be better from the stories they tell about their own life, and how I get to spend time with my family as I get to learn with my family as we grow to become closer to him." I like that, bud. I really do. Yeah. I always love the stories. My aunt says, "Conference is important to me to hear the modern day revelation. I think it's good to pray ahead of time to receive answers to my prayers." Yeah, absolutely. I was having a conversation. I went and got my hair cut, and I was talking with the lady that cuts my hair, my barber or whatever. And we were talking this last week about kind of some of the differences between like our church, and I was talking to her about my trip to Philadelphia, as I had a chance to speak with a good friend of mine who's a priest. He's taught as a Catholic priest, as a Methodist priest. He's now teaching in a Lutheran church. And we talked a lot about kind of the organization and why things are done certain ways, and processes and procedures. And it was very evident to me that a lot of the Catholic Church, as well as a lot of the other Christian denominations that are kind of offshoots of Catholicism, their procedural things and the way they do things in church or in meetings or and how they teach things and what they teach, doesn't change. A lot of it is because some scholar or some dude from, some priest, some cardinal, somebody somewhere, a couple hundred years ago, decided that the scriptures said something about this, and so they were going to do it one particular way, and then everybody kind of just followed the one guy, just said, and it becomes standard practice across the church for Catholics, Methodists, whatever, right? It was very interesting to me because we believe in our church that we have modern day revelation, that we are willing to change as needed and as directed by the voice and the mouth of God, through prophets, seers, and revelators, right? And that is incredible, to know that God cares about us and loves us enough that he gives us people, that he calls prophets, seers, and revelators to help us deal with what ails us today, versus just trusting in not that the scriptures aren't great, but trusting in the words of, just like if we just trusted in the words of the Bible, written 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, when the Bible starts, whatever, or even 2,000 years ago when Christ walked the earth, right? If we only believed in those things, if we only stuck to those things, and we stuck to their same customs, we'd be living in a very different. Our society would be way whack, right? If we go back to Jewish customs, if we go back to the law of Moses, if we go, law of Moses, people interpreted the law of Moses. You could only take certain amount of steps on Sunday, or you were damned. Like, you make one slip up and you're just going to hell. Like, we don't believe that because we have modern day revelation, and it's incredible, right? It's incredible to know that God cares about us enough that He is willing to help and talk us through every stage of this world, and not just give us instruction once and say, okay, figure it out. Like, and that to me is awesome. It's incredible. Any last comments, guys, before we kind of part ways today? Okay. Well, I will let you guys have the rest of your night. I want to say thank you guys for showing up this week. I'll be entirely honest, it was pretty hard last week when kind of nobody showed up. It was pretty bad feeling afterwards. And I really didn't know if I was going to have anybody show up this week. I'm very grateful that you have taken the time out of your Thursday night to study the gospel. And to support me in my endeavor of trying to do this, because it definitely feels a lot better when I know that I have people that are studying with me, than more so just filming my own study, if that makes sense. Like, it was kind of like it was last week. So I want to say thank you. Really, we've had 6 to 7 people here as viewers on the stream. That doesn't count anybody that may be watching with other people, right? But I am very grateful for you guys being here today. If you guys could do me a favor, and I just want to ask this of you, I would really love to see more people come and join us for studying. If you feel like this has been helpful to you at all, my request of you is that you share it with your friends and your family, so that they too can join in studying and taking the time, and having a dedicated time set apart where they can study with people and not feel like they have to study by themselves, so that they can learn and grow in the gospel together. If you'll take the time to share this, share my stream, right, with other people, I know that we can. I really do want to create an environment where everybody can come and feel welcome and learn from each other. That is my goal and my hope and my dream for this. I want people to know that they have a spot to study every week, so that they can prepare themselves for church on Sunday, and so that they can take some time out of their week to really connect with God and remember Him again, even amidst their busy lives. So if you'll do me a favor, share it with your friends and family. Click the subscribe button if you have not already, because that's what will give you notifications for when the stream goes live. And then lastly, I want you guys to just remember, right? I said this at the beginning of the stream. There will be no stream next week. My brother Ian is getting set apart as a missionary, and I will be attending his. I will be going and help, being his mission setting apart. So there will be no stream next week, but we will be back on the week after, which will be the 23rd. And if you're curious, so next week, the study for next week is Mosiah 11 through 17, which, based on this picture here, I'm going to say is all about the story of Abinadi. Yeah, Abinadi. So, very, very great study. Please take the time to study by yourself. Just because I don't do the stream doesn't mean you can't study. And then we'll be back studying on the 23rd this week, where we'll study Mosiah 18 and 24. So, thank you guys so much again for hanging with me today, for studying with me. I really hope that this has been beneficial for y'all. Again, please share it with your friends, your family. Let's create an environment and a community together that we can come together and study the gospel every week. I love you guys. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Awesome. Thanks.